Today, we're going to do things a little bit different for my podcast. Instead of interviewing someone, I'm going to tell you about Charlie Kirk, the man and the friend that I knew. And then we're going to go back and listen to the podcast that I did with him about 2 years ago. I first met Charlie Kirk in 2013. I met him through his first and my first donor, Foster Freeze. And Foster asked me to help Charlie, and I promised I would. Charlie and I exchanged cell phone numbers, and we kept in touch over the years, becoming friends. Honestly, Charlie did not need much help from me. He was talented, and he used his talents faithfully, answering God's call for his life. In the last 5 years, Charlie and I have worked together on several important projects. When Tea Party Patriots Foundation hosted a press conference on the steps of the United States Supreme Court with America's frontline doctors working to stop the spread of fear from COVID, Charlie and his crew flew to D.C. to interview the doctors for his podcast. He helped spread their message as well. Of course, we were all canceled and censored, but we were so successful in getting this message out that we helped spread hope and keep the light of liberty aflame. Immediately following the 2020 election, Charlie and I talked almost daily for weeks with updates about what was happening in our respective home states, Arizona and Georgia. We helped ensure that we each had facts rather than relying on internet rumors and speculation. As we headed into the 2024 election, Turning Point Action and Tea Party Patriots Action partnered to develop a relational organizing model to train activists and to mobilize those activists for getting out the vote to conservative voters. It was an innovative program. And Charlie and his colleague Tyler Boyer were some of the only other national leaders who understood the importance of modernizing how we get out the vote in the conservative movement. But besides our professional partnerships with Charlie and Turning Point, I watched his organization grow, and I trusted Charlie and his leadership with my own children. When my daughter started a conservative club in her high school, I encouraged her to plug in with Turning Point USA, which she did. Now, I know how to organize and was able to teach her how to organize, but I knew that Turning Point knew how to connect with the young people and with her generation, and I wanted to make sure she had that knowledge as well. She later joined the executive committee of on her college campus of the Turning Point chapter there. I watched as Turning Point USA provided support, tools, and training to help young people become active. They empowered young people to jump into the thick of cultural battles on the front lines, challenging their peers and bringing them to the right. Charlie and the Turning Point team rolled up their sleeves to do really hard work with real people providing real results. Turning Point is not just a website or a social media account, and Charlie was not merely an influencer. He did the real hard work to get real results. Charlie was a man of great faith, a husband and a father. I ache for his family. I take comfort in knowing they love the Lord and are relying on Christ to help them through this horrific assassination. And because they are relying on Christ, I have faith the Heavenly Father will give them peace only He can give, enfolding them and uplifting them in His love. About 2 years ago, when I interviewed Charlie, I asked him about his digital detox, and he talked in great length about how he worships God through the Jewish Sabbath. He has a book on that subject coming out later this year. Charlie also talked about his faith, his calling, and how each of us must act in obedience to God. Charlie said, "We have to act out of obedience, and we have to get our why correct. And I'm of the mindset that if we're not successful, I'm going to get back up and go back to work. And if that's not your mindset, then you're called, as the founders had a great term for it, you're a sunshine patriot. You're not built for this, and that's fine. Go do whatever you've got to do, right? Go run a small business or sell insurance or whatever. We're in this for the rest of our lives, but we need you." Charlie truly was in it for the rest of his life. We must ensure we all work to fill the void that Charlie's assassination has left in our world. And Charlie was right. We need you. We still need you. We owe it to Charlie and his legacy. But most importantly, we owe it to God, our family, and our country. God has blessed this nation, and last year he very clearly gave the United States of America another chance to turn toward him. We must set our eyes on Christ, open our hearts to the Holy Spirit, and listen to his call for our lives. Then, as Charlie Kirk did, act obediently to fulfill God's calling for your life. As for me and my house, it is to serve the Lord and to listen to his calling for my life, to work tirelessly to preserve liberty for the next generation and to keep our great republic. God bless you, Charlie Kirk. God, please continue to be with Erica and the children, and please continue to bless the United States of America. Now let's listen to Charlie Kirk in his own words.
Charlie, thanks so much for letting me take over your studios.
Yeah,
at your
only
location.
for you, Jenny Beth.
Oh, you're very kind.
You do wonderful work. We're honored to have you here.
So how long have you had this place?
Oh, well, this particular building, I'm trying to think, 5 or 6 years now. Mm-hmm. So it was part of our migration to Arizona. The Lord knew what he was doing. I live here now, so there's no escaping it. I love this state. It's amazing. It's the best of America, and it's also the highest stakes state in the country. All the bad guys are pouring lots of money into this state. It's changed dramatically politically, unfortunately, and I feel called to do my part to try to change it. We might be successful. We might not. We want to turn this more like Florida and less like Colorado. And Arizona used to be a real ruby red state. Isn't anymore, but we're in the right place.
That's good. That's very good. You've got an amazing operation
Thank
going
you.
on. So one of the things that I've noticed that you and Turning Point Action are doing, you have focused a lot on high school kids and
Yes.
college kids, and now you're expanding into churches and with
Yep.
Turning Point Action, even with adults. Can you talk a little bit about some of the changes and how you're reaching out also to adults and not just kids?
Yeah, I mean, as I get older, the organization kind of grows with us. The church thing's really fun. I never thought I'd be getting into the church world. I've been a Christian since I was in 5th grade, gave my life to the Lord. I kind of stayed away from ever mixing politics and religion because that's how I was raised. And I said, okay, let the evangelical groups do their thing. There's a lot of these DC groups that say they do a lot of stuff with churches. I assumed they were doing good work. And then all of a sudden the lockdowns came. Right. And 99% of pastors cowered in fear when they took Easter and Pentecost away. And they said, oh, Romans 13, I got to shut down, listen to the government. I was like, whoa, I thought you guys were bold and courageous. You guys are cowards. And there were some really good pastors that stood up. I said, we got to get to know them, traveled the country, spoke at some of their churches in the calendar year of 2020. And then the second reason we got involved in the church space is all of a sudden these churches preaching to empty auditoriums are telling me America's a systemically racist country and white privilege. Like, what is going on here?
Right.
And so we felt called from our role, from a cultural civic engagement role, to try to strengthen and wake up the church, to excommunicate wokeism from the church. And so we're doing our part. We have over 2,000 member pastor and churches now, huge pastor summits. The Lord has been super blessed. And so, and then Turning Point Action, watch out. We're taking over state parties. We're holding the RNC accountable. We're getting rid of the Vichy French Republicans. We're not here to try to make a long political career. We're here because I'm sick of losing the country. We want to put the grassroots back in charge of the Republican Party.
When you do as much work as you do all week long, and I know because I have those long weeks where you've got 12 and 18-hour days.
You've been doing it forever.
Yeah.
Longer than I have.
You don't want to see the people who are just taking it all for granted and throwing it away. And you want to make sure that you're helping the people who care about the country be equipped to take care of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I really think the Republican Party broadly has a huge opportunity in front of us. This primary is largely a distraction, but we're already seeing some really positive themes that the people in charge of the Republican Party are not the donors of Aspen or the Hamptons. There's some really good donors in Aspen and Hamptons. We have some of them. There's also a lot of not so good donors in Aspen and the Hamptons. We're a people party now, and you have to listen to the grassroots. You have to listen to their concerns. You got to go to the podcast that asks you the tough questions, right? You just can't keep on going to the same sort of, let's support Ukraine podcast hour or whatever stupid thing that they do on cable television now. The party has profoundly gone through a metamorphosis. And Donald Trump is to credit for that, like without a doubt. And Jenny Beth, you deserve credit. You were the grassroots movement that really led to Trump. And Trump, I think, spoke at some of your events like 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken,
he
right?
did.
He saw the power of the Tea Party movement before anybody else, grassroots, great energy. And, it kind of like Tea Party, MAGA, and now we have this amazing coalition of all those elements together. So that's really exciting. And at Turning Point Action, we're really focused on precinct development. And again, people ask me, what does the strategy look like? Well, what does the success look like? I want the Republican Party to be as conservative as their voters. That shouldn't have to be a huge ask, right?
It shouldn't be.
So you take like South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas. I wouldn't say that most of their senators are Democrats, but they're certainly not nearly voting as conservative as their voters are. So let's just fix that. That's an easy ask, and that's our current mission.
It isn't that hard to do, and it's not that hard to ask for. It's hard to do.
It is a challenge.
Hard to do.
Yes, it is. You know how it is a challenge.
It's a complete challenge. One of the things I heard recently is you were talking about the importance of the grassroots being involved. I think that the RNC putting a stipulation on the debates that the candidates have to have a certain number of donors actually is a good thing. And I've heard some of the candidates complaining about it, and it makes me think, well, then you're probably not listening to the grassroots.
It's a great intention, poorly executed because you just give away gift cards, I guess, to get on the stage.
That's true.
And then I don't know if they're actually vetting it. But I do appreciate the effort, the intention of the RNC. No one takes the RNC seriously, so they're all just kind of gaming it. I think half of them are lying. But I do want to credit the RNC. At least they tried to say, hey, we want to be a grassroots party. You have to have at least 40,000 people that have given you money.
Right. And the candidates who are complaining about it, it
tells you everything you need to know,
They're showing
right?
a lot of their true colors right now.
That's right.
So I like that.
It also shows, they can't draw crowds. They can't draw support, right? So, look, the Republican Party is no longer the party of the Chamber of Commerce, no longer the party of billionaire oligarchs. We've kicked those people out of our party a long time ago, thanks to Donald Trump. And that means we are going to be in a funding deficit for a considerable time. But we can't be in an activist or an energy deficit. And so we can't, look, they're going to outspend us everywhere. They're going to outspend us on the ballot referendums. They're going to outspend us in ads. But are they going to outwork us? And that's where we come in, both Tea Party Patriots and Turning Point Action.
Right. And you and Tyler and I have been working on a lot of things. Some of them will be rolling out more in 2024 to make sure that we're equipped and that the activists are equipped.
I'm excited about it.
It's going to be good. I'm really excited about it as well. One of the things, I want to shift gears just a little bit, that I've heard you mention, and I think that people would be interested in hearing more about, is that you are doing basically a digital detox.
Yeah, Sabbath. Yeah, it was funny. A couple years ago, I've been going hard for, as like you, 11 years, and I was just getting super worn down because, I didn't really stop after the 2020 election. I just kept going, and then we had the awful events of January 6th. It just, it was just a nonstop, right? So the summer of 2021 was a challenge. It was just like, my goodness, when do you get a rest? And a pastor friend of mine was like, well, you should take the Sabbath. And at the same time, I love Dennis Prager. I listened to a lot of his podcasts, and I would always be envious. I'm like, wow, the Jewish people, religious Jews, are so lucky they get to take a day off. It's like, why don't I do that? I'm a free sovereign being. I could do it. And, it says in the 10 Commandments, for 6 days you shall work, and for 1 day you shall rest. I was like, okay, I got the 6 days down, right? So I got the first part of the commandment, but I'm definitely not resting. And so in Hebrew, the word Sabbath, Shabbat, means to stop, to cease, right? And you do it first and foremost in observance that God created the heavens and the earth, right? It's the longest standing religious celebration in human history. It's building a cathedral in time. And so I started doing it. The first couple weeks were hard, and the first couple months were difficult because people thought they could reach me. But then after about 6 months, 9 months, honestly, it's like most people know, I honor the Shabbat, and I go from Friday night to Sunday morning. Some people say, hey, Sunday's the Shabbat. That's fine. You guys do whatever you want. I'm not even saying you're honor bound, like you're biblically bound to do it, but I know that I rest better on Saturday than Sunday. Sunday is a day before work. Right. I'm already thinking about it, so it works for me, and it's honestly profoundly changed my life. 36 hours, no phone. My team loves it. Because they, I kind of lay off of them for a little bit. Yeah. But it's honestly, I think it preserves us, hopefully the organization and me, to come and fight for the next 40 years, right? Because we're in this for the long haul. We're not going to save America overnight. We're going to have victories hopefully pretty quick, but the long-term accomplishment is going to be multi-generational. And I think the Lord gives us that commandment because he loves us, and it allows you to say, hey, for 6 days, I'm going to go as hard as I can. And then I'm just going to kind of rest, stop, cease from activity. So as we're recording, having this conversation tonight, I was just planning our Shabbat dinner tonight, and family, turn the phones off, and I'll be back on the grid Sunday morning.
It's great. And you've got a very small child, and
Yes.
hopefully you'll have more kids.
That is the
It's
prayer.
a good way to spend that time and to know you're going to have that time with them.
Yeah, and so there's some debates in Christian circles. Are you commanded to honor the Sabbath the way the Jews are? I actually am not that interested in those debates. I'm saying you're missing out if you're not.
Yeah.
So in no ways is it against the Bible to honor the Sabbath, right? But I think you're missing out. I think you're missing out on one of the great delights of life, and studying the Ten Commandments, which I think is one of the great moral accomplishments, honestly, in the history of our species. I think it's the commandment that allows the other commandments to make possible. So if you honor the Sabbath, you're more likely to have a beautiful family. You're more likely to honor your parents. You're more likely to not covet.
Right.
You're more likely to honor your God and have no other gods before him. So I think it's the gateway to the other 9 commandments. That's
really, really good. And I think that a lot of younger people, like in your audience, need to understand that taking a little bit of time off from their phone.
It's amazing.
Yeah, they need that time
Your
away.
identity is not through your device. And it recenters you. You could journal. Some people say, oh, well, Charlie, will you ride in a car? Yeah, I'll ride in a car. I won't work, though. That's the difference. I will not do work because that's what the commandment says.
Right.
No work. And so, I might watch a college football game if it's on, something that I enjoy, something that decompresses me.
Right.
But honestly, the best Sabbaths are the ones where I have no devices, right? And I'm just reading and I'm just with family or I'm with friends.
My son, in the summer of 2021, he is an Eagle Scout, and he went up to Northern Tier and worked at Northern Tier. And so that is on the Boundary Waters in Minnesota. And he took troops out canoeing.
It's supposed to be the quietest place in America.
It was very quiet, and he couldn't use the cell phone. And he came back, and he went through a metamorphosis. And not having that phone, he would have it when he got back on the weekends, but then he'd be out for 7 to 10 days with no phone, and it changed him. And I think that more kids really need to get away from their devices. Adults do too. I'm sure I do as well.
And the difference is with kids is that no one should have a phone younger than 18 years old, but that's a separate issue. I've lost that debate. I've tried for I didn't, because I grew up in a different era 10 years ago. But it neurologically changes your brain. And that's the difference, is that if a 50-year-old uses their phone, they don't have the same sort of dopaminergic attraction or attachment to it that a 12-year-old will, because they're developing long-lasting pathways that then addict them to that device for the rest of their life.
Yeah, it's really scary. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you're doing that. And
Thank
I hope
you.
that
yeah, and if you're not, you're missing out. I'm not trying to guilt you into it. It's just your life will be shallow if you don't.
Yeah. Okay. Now, looking ahead in the next year and a half, as we're looking at November 2024 and beyond, things can look really bleak. The day we're recording this, things do look pretty bleak. But you have hope for the future. Why do you have hope?
I have hope in the ultimate future. So as far as the election goes, 2024, anything can happen.
Yeah.
If it's Trump v. Biden, it's going to be difficult. The Republican establishment is not playing to win. The Democrats are. If other people decide to run, if there's no labels or Cornel West, it could get interesting. In your home state of Georgia, Cornel West could maybe pull a couple 100,000, black voters, and that could be an interesting dynamic to it. But look, I'm driven by my faith, and I'm driven by a strong belief that God meets you halfway. And so we must act with obedience, and maybe God will act in a miraculous way. Look, I'm not a hopium guy where I don't go on my podcast, my show, your show, and be like, you know what, we're going to win the election. I don't believe that. I think we could, but we have to work for a miracle. And so that means we have to work the hardest we possibly can. This is the problem with the mindset of the conservative movement. And I hear this, Charlie, what's the point? The odds are stacked against us. Or if we lose, I'm giving up. I'm surrendering. I'm moving to Auckland, New Zealand. I'm moving to Zurich, Switzerland. And I said, well, you have your why all wrong. You do it out of obedience. You do it out of duty. You do it out of gratitude for what happened before. And if we win, then it will be the greatest celebration. But guess what? Maybe God doesn't want you to take credit for it. Maybe all of this, he wants you to say, you know what, I did a little bit, but my goodness. And honestly, there's so many things that could still happen. We have no idea what this race is going to look like, right? And yeah, it looks bad. And also, conservatives not playing to win. We're going to try to do our part. You're going to try to do your part. We're going to try to do our element of ballot chasing and precinct organizing. It really is a 3-state race. It's Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin. That's it. I believe Donald J. Trump will win Florida, he'll win North Carolina, he'll win Ohio, win Iowa. North Carolina is the one that's going to require a little bit of work, but it's structurally a pretty good state. But Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin are tough. and you win those 3 states, he's the president of the United States. So it's a 3-state race, really an 8-county race. Comes down to mainly Maricopa, a little bit of Pinal, a little bit of Pima, and then Fulton, Cobb, Gwinnett, and then Dane, Kenosha, Milwaukee. That's basically the whole civilization. So if we start talking like that now, let's micro-target, put our working boots on, and mobilize the conservative Republican base to try to make an impact. So what might seem daunting, like, oh, wow, hundreds of millions of, 200 million votes and billions of dollars. Well, guys, this is 7 counties.
And
so
in these
let's
3
do our
states,
work.
it was far less than 100,000 vote
Oh, it
difference.
was 44,000,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
Here in
wasn't even
Arizona,
50.
in Arizona, it was 10,000. Georgia was like 8,000,
11,000.
22,000 in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And that's with all their crap, right? That's with all the fraud, all the ballot mules, all the suppression, all that. So I think that we're right on the margins. I think that if the election were held today and if it was held ethically, Trump would win. It's not going to be held ethically, so it's a coin toss. It's a coin toss. So even with that, I think it's like 5,000 to 6,000 votes on the margins. So my goodness, guys, stop complaining. We have a chance to make history. And maybe God's going to act in a miraculous way. Maybe blacks will come in our way in a 3-4 point way because of the trans issue. Maybe working class Hispanics will come our way. Maybe we'll have a parents, realignment in Kenosha or Waukesha, or I have no idea. Or maybe these third-party candidates will draw hundreds of thousands of younger voters at UW-Madison Marquette and, in Athens, Georgia. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows.
No one knows.
But I do know that if we don't work, we lose.
Right.
And that's the message I'm bringing to the grassroots.
And I think that's a really important message. And it's not just that the activists don't know, but the talking heads on TV want us to think that it's all settled already anyway.
Yeah.
We don't know. So we have to give it our all.
No, we have to act out of obedience, and we have to get our why correct. And I'm of the mindset that if we are not successful, I'm going to get up and go back to work.
Right.
And if that's not your mindset, then you're a what's called, and the founders had a great term for it, you're a sunshine patriot. Like you're not built for this, and that's fine. Like go do whatever you got to do, right? Go run a small business or sell insurance or whatever. We're in this for the rest of our life.
That's right.
But we need you, right? We need you to knock on doors, become a precinct committeeman, donate the money you can, whatever it takes.
Poll watch, poll work, all of it.
And everyone has their calling, right?
Right.
And we're trying to fill the void.
Well, I am excited about what you're doing, and
Thank you.
I am excited about the partnership that we have.
Yeah,
going.
Tyler's been cooking up some great stuff.
Yeah, Tyler's really good, and I appreciate the time that you spent with us today.
Thank you,
so
Jenny
much.
Beth. Love Tea Party Patriots, and we're here to help.
Thank you very much, Charlie Kirk.
God bless you.